So Ben, hi.
Hi.
Thanks for taking the time to get together and talking about profits, mindset, True Classic, and profit analytics. Um,
Of
Super
course, thanks
pumped.
for
We've
having
got
me.
some, yeah, sure. So we have some great questions for you. And actually, we started working together like last year, I think, and it was clear since day one that the True Classic team are super professional, fast movers. But I'd love to hear from you something about True Classic that perhaps I don't know yet.
Okay, what don't you know? True Classic. One fun fact about us is that we bootstrapped this brand in 2019 and we're able to scale profitably in 2 short years, north of 9 figures.
Nice. Great fact.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, you're also one of the biggest advocates for contribution profit tracking. Obviously, it's all over the place. I'd love to hear kind of what's your philosophy and your belief when it comes to e-commerce tracking, what your core belief is, and what you really kind of try to follow.
Yeah, so we believe in a very simple North Star, which is everybody on at this company needs to focus on driving marginal, incremental contribution profit. That's what we look at, that's what we evaluate, that's what we optimize towards. And so it starts with actually understanding what is your contribution profit. Most analytics platforms on e-commerce don't go much deeper than revenue. And so a lot of people are stuck at looking maybe at ROAS or looking at quote unquote AOV, even though the value might be like inflated revenue. They may forget that to take out taxes or duties or, expected returns or exchanges. And so really want to take out all of those items, payment processing fees, product COGS, shipping costs, pick and pack when it comes to fulfillment, and find a really great platform to enable that. And that's actually how we stumbled upon you guys, because that's your mission, to enable e-commerce brands to understand what is happening in their day-to-day business from a profitability perspective. So that's our North Star. It's not easy to always have it, but once you do, you can operate with clarity and you can ensure that you are, driving what matters at the end of the day, which is your bottom line.
Definitely. I think also one of the things, so first, we really emphasize contribution profit would be profit. And one of the things that we also did in the platform since we started working together is really deepen one of our most kind of powerful features, I think, and that's our P&L, which has contribution profit, but much more, obviously. And then we did a lot of things to fit True Classic. And by the way, any e-commerce professional brand who really wants to grow, not at any cost or any price, right, but grow smartly. So we added split by new versus returning customers and different breakdown options. And soon we'll have a filter by country and filter by sales channels, and really a whole P&L that you can view in different angles. Can you share how you utilize that on your daily work, and how does kind of having a real-time P&L report help you and True Classic achieve your goals?
Yeah, of course. So we are big advertisers, and I would say that's probably one of the biggest things or use cases on a day-to-day basis when you advertise so much like we do. And that's one of the secret sauces of how we were able to scale so quickly, right? Is knowing how much and where to spend. You really need a read and a pulse check on like how things are trending. And so if you think about the business we ran, we started in the US and now we're available in 190 markets worldwide. When you think about contribution profit in that context, looking at the overall business might be too high of a view, where you might be more interested to see, are there any particular countries that are more profitable than others, right? So being able to see the breakdown allows you to say like, hey, look, maybe we should ramp up in Germany and pull back in Australia, or maybe we should ramp up in Israel or Mexico, right? Because it's more profitable. Similarly to customers, right? If you just look at them as a whole, it's a little bit harder to kind of like make sense of like what is happening on the acquisition first orders front and what's happening from that point on from like a retention LTV cohorts front. And so being able to look at those angles allows you to understand like how much should you spend on customer acquisition, how far are you from breaking even on that first order. If you're not breaking even, how soon do you expect to be able to be paid back so you can continue to grow from there. So another example is the products analytics, right? Everybody has large catalogs. Are you really clear on which products are turning around profit for you? And if not, you might not be putting the right focus on which products to advertise, which products to feature on your collection pages, which products to put on your email and SMS. And so all those breakdowns are really giving you the tactical guidance and insights you need in order to understand if my North Star is to generate contribution profit, how can I do that? Which products, which markets, which channels, right? And that's basically how we operate here day to day.
Interesting. It actually brings me to another question that is not part of my script, but I do want to ask. I think one of the things that is very clear with working with you guys is that everyone in the team has access to the P&L, has access to the data. Everyone on the executive team kind of gets to see it, and even not on the executive team. So I'm wondering kind of how this democratizing of profit data looks like in a daily decision-making process, and how your team is utilizing that as well. I'm also asking because when we encounter customers, a lot of time we kind of need to get it into a habit to look at contribution profit and not look away, right? So I'm interested to hear how it looks internally for you guys.
100%. So when we kind of like thought about the culture at True Classic, the top value that we coined was move the needle. This is a company that cares about making an impact. And the needle for us, if you think about the purpose of the brand, is to make everybody look good and feel good. In order to be able to do that, we got to first make sure that we're serving those customers as being reflected by revenue, right? When you sell, what does that mean? It means that you were able to deliver that value to someone who found it and is a happy customer. And then be able to sustain that and continue to grow, which is the profit line, right? So in order for us to deliver on that mission of look good and feel good, we need to do two things really well. We got to drive top line revenue and grow this brand and reach people. And we got to drive bottom line profit so we can continue to do that, reinvest, scale further, grow the brand. And so those are the needles. In order to actually deliver on that, people at this company need to understand what are their individual needles, what is expected from them, what is the impact looking like. So we've never shied away from being insanely transparent about everything that we do internally and externally. Even on some of the podcasts, like the ones we do, I know we share a lot of different numbers and things like that. If you will, we're close to like building in public. And what it really does is allows people to focus on what matters. And in my opinion, in order to make an impact, it's a function of two things, which is focus and force. And if you allow people to focus on the things that matter because they have an understanding of like how to, like if I just told you, hey, drive contribution profit or drive EBITDA every day, but you don't know what it is or where to find it or how you can impact that, then it doesn't matter that I'm telling you all day long to focus on that. You're not equipped to be able to do that. But if I did, that helps you put the focus. That's the scorecard. That's kind of like quote unquote the strategy, right? Like you're going in a direction that moves the needle. And then you put the force, right? Hard work and creative execution, problem solving. And those are kind of like the mantra here at True Classic is that we are relentless about being better tomorrow than we are today. As simple as it sounds. And really the analytical financial view allows us to put the focus and energy where it needs to go in order to drive the results we care about and move the needle.
Yeah, I think it's super empowering even for an employee or a manager or anyone to have the set of tools and ability to make good informed decisions. So it's a good job with that. I actually want to maybe take one step back. Even though we talked about product and you talked about markets and all of that, and also you guys, you do D2C, you have an Amazon shop, and you have different channels where you can look at separately with profit or aggregate a view and look at your profit across all of them. What are the kind of main metrics other than the contribution profit, or if it's the only one, then that's good, okay? That you compare across channels, and in reality, how do you take these insights and optimize your business in different channels later?
100%. So, the reason I love contribution profit is because it's supposed to include all the variable costs, right? And then you think about below that, there is OPEX, which brings you to EBITDA, and then some other adjustments, right? Like interest on debt and things like that. So if you think about the way we compare apples to apples across channels, we're trying to basically account for all the variable costs as accurately as possible. And contribution profit is a really good line on the P&L. What we're also kind of like talking about here is kind of getting maybe another line on the P&L, call it operating profit. And, some people use operating profit interchangeably with EBITDA. But what I'm calling for operating profit is to basically be contribution profit net of any variable OpEx that is incurred because we're doing a channel. Perfect example for that might be retail, right? Had we not done retail, we would not be incurring OpEx such as like the salaries of the, store associates and the actual store rent and the utility bills, right? And so even though all that is technically OpEx, it actually varies with our choice being in retail. And so if I'm trying to think about how profitable we are in retail, contribution profit might not be exactly the line because those other costs are the equivalent of what might be media spend on D2C, right? And so we're trying to create kind of like this like bottom line by channel view of like what comes at the top when it comes to net revenue and what's a fair all-in fully burdened kind of like profitable like profitability metric. It could be contribution profit, it could be that operating profit. We're really trying not to get bogged down by other fixed costs. For example, the rent in this office. That doesn't matter to us whether we do retail or don't do retail, do Amazon, don't do Amazon, right? So I don't want to pollute fixed costs into the kind of like equation of how different channels perform for us as a brand. And really what we're trying to do every day is take a very objective approach of which channels look most promising. The challenging act there too is in how do you properly allocate costs across channels. So as an example, if we think about media spend, which is a really big line on our P&L, we spend many tens of millions of dollars advertising. A policy might be to say all your media spend should be tied to your direct-to-consumer channel. Why? Because you are linking to that channel. But the reality is when we spend more on advertising direct to D2C, we also see that we are selling more on Amazon or we're selling more in our stores, right? And so we are really trying to take a more sophisticated approach, trying to understand that cause and effect, right? And which variable costs should impact which P&L, which goes deeper into kind of like attribution and allocation. So there is a few kind of like challenges as you're trying to go a little bit lower on there. But then even, a level above the contribution profit, let's just say gross profit, that's a little bit easier to understand, right? Because you're like, okay, I'm generating orders. Let me just take out all the obvious costs that I can associate with each, whether it's the product COGS or the payment processing fees, right? Like that is a line that I think is apples to apples. As you go a little bit lower, it starts getting a little bit more involved, and you really just want to make sure that you're not making the wrong decisions on how profitable a channel is. Is another quick example with retail. There is impact of the retail stores that does not come through the four walls, right? When someone sees you in retail, they might want something else and then they go online and buy it. How do I attribute that, right? And so it won't be fair to judge the channel just based on what is happening in the stores. I got to think about it more holistically from like an omni-channel perspective and try to make some good judgment on like how profitable retail is for us and what's the ultimate impact, right? As just a quick example.
Good example. Super interesting. I think for the last two questions, I want to take you to my area a bit. And that's, you're in e-commerce, but eventually you have this really nice tech stack that you're using, right? And you're using multiple products and to calculate different things. So I'm wondering, kind of planning tech stack is usually a challenge, and I'm not sure if it's your bread and butter, and it's if it's something that you're used to. So I'm happy to hear kind of how you are thinking about when you're approaching, taking on a product to help you with your operations, your profit analytics, or any of that, and also the be profit angle of it. Kind of what were the aspects of be profit that made you make the decision to hop on board?
Yeah, absolutely. We've built, so I mentioned to you guys or earlier, this like soundbite of we were able to take that in for a second. Bootstrapped a brand going into a commoditized space with no X factor, no celebrity, no bunch of VC money to burn, no some crazy edge from like the product perspective, and grow it past $100 million in 2 years profitably. That has not been done by many brands, maybe any brand in this space. And if you really think about it, we have done that with such a small team, like less than 50. How do you go about that? You gotta find incredible partners to really empower you on that journey. And that's what e-commerce is about. And I'm really, really big on partnerships. And what does that look like? That means that you find partners who are scrappy, who have identified a big pain point, right, in e-commerce, have a good solution, who move really fast, who are open for feedback, who serve as an extension of your team, and who are interested in essentially creating this like mutually beneficial partnership where the partner invests in our growth as a brand, and in return, we invest in this partner's growth as the brand, right? And so what that looks like in practicality, and what I'm looking for from the partner's perspective, I want to know who's that founder, and I want to talk to them, and I want to really understand like their founding story and kind of like their DNA. We don't do well with like tech dinosaurs and that are super slow, not really innovative, not really looking to kind of like move. And so that's really important to me, so I understand who we're working with. I then want to know that we have on a day-to-day basis their A+ team. We don't like working with like, hey, here's a great founder sells us on something, and then they bring us some, offshore, I don't know what, individuals to quote unquote help us day to day. And you feel like, oh yeah, I was totally oversold and now I'm getting like really poor service. So that's really important to us. We want openness to our feedback and needs, where it's like, if we share with you thoughtful requests and we're not ridiculous, you would take that to heart and you would really help us prioritize your roadmap around our business needs. And we kind of are building this together. And we want that, and we want speed. We want speed and execution. We don't want to hear this is on the roadmap for Q3 of 2027. That is not True Classic speed. We want to hear, we got you, we're going to deliver on that next week. And that's a lot of the DNA that we're looking for. Then from our side, what we do is we really find the best partners we can, and we try to help them as much as we can with, again, thoughtful feedback and thoughtful recommendations, and a great partnership and conversations like that, and really giving people the shout outs that they deserve, because you're helping us on this journey and the world needs to know. And that's what I love, doing things like that, because for any operator out there, frankly and transparently, and I have no skin in this game, they would be really smart to look into Be Profit and be able to start understanding their profitability if they don't have another tool doing so. And that would be just a really wise solution to add to your tech stack. Like, we found a lot of value in it. So that's kind of what we're looking for. We have over 100 for context and like different SaaS partners in this environment. And this company is just built on, again, the backbone of a lot of really, really good partnerships. And we don't take that lightly. And frankly, we also don't take that lightly as in like, if we started a partnership and it doesn't go super well, we are not shy from, switching over or finding, a better partner that does that. But what I found most success with is with partners who understand that this is a very fast moving industry and that you have to move in order to stay relevant, or someone else is going to do that instead of you. It's a race. Business is a war, right? We're all trying to, get stuff done, and done is better than perfect. And so that's actually probably the one characteristic I would put above a lot of other ones. How fast do you move?
Interesting. How fast do you think Be Profit moves?
Pretty fast, I would say. We obviously, we've been working for quite a few months. I know there was no shortage of requests, but pretty fast. And that's where we're still working together.
Maybe my last question would be kind of, is there anything that, or I'm pretty sure there is, but what is it with Be Profit that you're now able to do easily or more efficiently or more accurately, wherever you want to take it, that you couldn't do before, or it was a challenge doing before?
Yeah, I think I talked about it earlier. If you look at Shopify provides a lot of different metrics, but are not necessarily the most accurate. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, right? You might look at AOV, but again, you forget that the value is not the real value coming from your orders. It's a very surface level value. It might be like gross revenue, not net of all the things you do. You might need to account for returns separately, right? Because Shopify will ding the day the returns are being processed versus the day that the orders were processed, right? And that can really mess up your read, especially if you think about, let's just say January, and you now get a lot of returns from the peak in Q4, and that might make your numbers look really bad, but in reality, you might be generating perfectly fine orders. You just need to account for things in the right time frame. And so in short, what it allows us to do is just get visibility to order level profitability, and in some cases down to product level profitability. That granularity is super, super important. And once you have that level of visibility and accuracy, and I know in our world, like we went through like probably 100 different rounds of validations and revalidations, it really empowers everybody to operate with clarity. And BI and data is a complicated thing. A lot of people have data, but in reality, that data is poorly structured, is inaccurate, and it can lead you down the wrong path. You might think you're making data-driven decisions, but if your data is crappy, your decisions might be just as crappy as your data. And so what we really have been able to do is get that level of confidence that we have a handle on the order's profitability, at least as close as we have ever had it. Is it perfect? It's never going to be perfect, but it's definitely the closest we've ever had it, and we continue to refine that. And with that, the confidence that we can operate strategically in the right direction because we're consuming the right information to inform those decisions.
Perfect. Okay. Ben, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you. Toda rabba.